I'm Lloyd Bonson and welcome to Snetterton, where today we're going to be featuring races from the competition car insurance Ford Fiesta Championship classes A and B. Now, during the winter, the Snetterton circuit has been reprofiled with a new infield track, which will make it a little bit more challenging and technical for the drivers. One of the drivers that's going to be missing out on that today is Zena Cooper, who's still suffering with engine issues following the last race at Silverstone. Richard will take you through the grid.
Thanks, Lloyd, and welcome everybody to Snetterton circuit here in Norfolk for round 2 of the championship. John Langridge on pole from David Elsom, then Scott Baines and Kevin Bateman on row 2. Nick Barton and Kevin Stirling complete row 3. Fourth row of the grid, James Appleby and Keith Chapman, then Michelle Edwards and Nick Tiley with Kemp lining up 11th. Well, the back of picture, you can see some new raised spectator banking that the circuit owners have put in place, and there's some really good places to watch motorsport here now at Snetterton, and we'll talk about the reprofiled circuit as the race unfolds. Lights out, and it's John Langridge on pole position, the black car with the green trim. On his outside, David Elsom in white with the, looks like a red stripe on the roof, but I think it's the cross of St George. Then into third place goes Kevin Bateman in car number 55. Fourth position, no, up into third place goes Scott Baines. So Scott Baines in third, then Kevin Bateman, then following Ken it's Kevin Stirling, then Nick Barton, followed by Michelle Edwards, then it's Keith Chapman in red. Following Keith Chapman, we've got Nick Tiley, who's had a not such a good weekend so far, and then Claire Kemp in 32. They've all got away very well indeed, and heading down to the infield section for the first time. And look at that, John Langridge already opening up a gap as he goes through Oggies, which is one of the new corners. Beg your pardon, it's Palmer corner he's going through for the first time. As we look at 17, Keith Chapman, leader already heading down towards the very tight left-hander at Agostini. If you look carefully, you can see the corner names on the infield and sometimes on the outfield, just to remind everybody what they're called, because there are a lot of new corners. And just to make matters worse, as one of the cars kicks up the dirt there, I think that was Michelle Edwards who did that. And as I say, just to make matters worse for everybody, they've renamed some of the existing corners as well. So through Oggie's corner, now down towards Williams, named after Sir Frank Williams, and then it's going to be on to the renamed Bentley Straight, used to be known as the Revet Straight, and you can see there right of shot the little bit of circuit that comes from Montreal, which is the renamed Sear corner. It's reprofiled as well, to be perfectly honest as well. They've gone a little bit further out, and then it comes back as a hairpin rather than a 90-degree corner that we had before. But we're looking at John Langridge, who's got a really big lead here as he comes towards the around about two-thirds of the first lap. Still leading from David Elsom, who's running well. Then in third position, Scott Baines, and then Ken Bateman in 55. So just to tell you where everybody is in class, we've got two Class A runners, first and second, Class B second and third, and that looks like a very close race between second and third at the moment, although Scott Baines wants to put some distance between himself and the second place man. Ken Bateman dives around the outside of David Elsom and takes second position overall. Great manoeuvre then by the Class B leader, championship leader as well, by virtue of 2 wins at Silverstone 2 weeks ago, and conditions much the same as they were there as we move from Northampton to Norfolk. Blue skies, sun shining, very, very high temperatures here, and Class A leader and championship leader is John Langridge. We had a double in Class C, which we'll see in a separate programme, with David Grady taking 2 wins as well. So some very uncharacteristic Fiesta Championship dominance. We normally see things a little bit more mixed up than that, but the guys that did the winning really got themselves sorted out. Scott Baines coming under pressure from David Elsom in 40, who goes wide, and Ken Bateman goes through as well. So we've got Class B cars now up into second and third place. This is terrific driving from the Class Bs, and I think the infield section very much suiting them. Scott Baines kicks up a little bit of dirt as we go back and look at David Elsom in the 40 car. This is his local circuit, Cambridge based driver running in the Twin Cam racing car, and he's teamed up with Nick Tiley in 45, both those guys running under the Daniels Motorsport banner. Daniels, again, a big presence in the paddock, and probably a good team to talk to, along with WDE Motorsport, if you fancy talking to a team about coming in to the competition car insurance Ford Fiesta Championship for 2011. But there's Scott Baines in 73. Now, John Langridge isn't doing himself any favours in terms of television coverage, because he's away on his own, and we're really going to focus on the guys that are having the battle. Through go the two guys in Class B. Class B for the 1400cc Zetec Fiestas, and they're running in this race against the Class A 1800cc SI cars. Now this is where the Class A machines are really going to come into their own along the Bentley Straight, coming down into what used to be known as the S's, but now known as Brundle. Through they go. I think you could probably say safely that it's named after Martin Brundle, who's now, of course, a commentator on Formula 1, but a top XF1 driver. Did cut his teeth on the short ovals, did Martin. His brother Robin also raced as well. Let's not forget about him as we go back to Scott Baines in 73 from Kevin Bateman. This is the scrap for the lead of Class B, and as you can see, they're not really losing many of the other drivers. Everybody keeping relatively close at the moment as they come up to complete the second of, now let's see, probably 8, possibly 9 laps here at Snetterton Circuit, the new revamped circuit, 2.99 miles in length. And John Langridge getting away. We've seen him down going through Riches as well. There is Scott Baines in second, Ken Bateman in third at the moment. Can't seem to do anything about Scott Baines. Out of Riches down towards what was Sear, now known as Montreal, totally revamped corner. It's now a hairpin. You can see around goes the leader of Class B. Oh, and a little bit of a mistake there from David Elsom. Kicks up some dirt, clipping the exit line there. Now they come down to Palmer Corner, which is turn 3. We've got 3 different circuit configurations now at Snetterton. We've got the old traditional circuit with a slightly remodelled S's and remodelled Montreal, which goes, if you ignore the infield section that we're looking at now, goes pretty much where the old circuit did. And we've got an infield circuit too, which is much shorter, and that runs that can run independently of the old outside circuit. Now we're on board with Claire Kemp, lady racer from Ely, so this is her local circuit as well. And Claire is chasing after the 27 car, the white and blue machine of James Appleby. Both drivers have the newcomers insignia on the back of the car, as does John Langridge, but John with plenty of experience from karting, which he's bringing with him into car racing. So he's got a bit of racecraft experience. And these guys here with less experience, Claire Kemp chasing after James Appleby, as we said, on the infield section. Just now, in fact, comes out of the infield section and goes down the straight. It used to be the Reverted Straight, Bentley Straight, one of the fastest straights in British motorsport, probably the fastest straight, thinking about it. And they're getting more of a sweep now when they go through Williams to join this. There's the bridge that brings the traffic from the outside of the circuit into the paddock, into the slightly smoother Brundle corner, where we did used to see quite a lot of cars attempting overtakes, and it's a little bit smoother now, which I think is probably going to make it safer, to be perfectly honest. There are overtaking places elsewhere on the circuit, for example into Montreal, maybe on the inside of Palmer if you try the outside at Montreal. So we'll see how that pans out, or the way the different formulas come to race here. Claire Kemp giving us a great view, and right in front actually of James Appleby we've got the third place Class A car of Nick Tiley, the yellow car. Nick really having a little bit of a struggle this weekend. Can't find the problem at the moment, but it's seemingly the engine down on the Daniels Motorsport prepared car as Claire races down the centre straight and down towards Rich's corner to reel off another lap. Heading towards half distance in this race. Not so many laps, of course, on the longer circuits, and it's probably the longest circuit that the guys and girl race on. You heard Lloyd mention at the top of the programme, Zena Cooper not with us today. We've also lost William Torreson from round 1. I think struggling with sponsors for this round, William, but he tells me he's going to be back out later in the season. And Zena Cooper's engine malady should be sorted via a new engine sourced in time for Donington Park, which I think is 3 weeks' time. And there is James Appleby and Claire Kemp, the battle that we've been looking at. And Claire is actually getting closer now. We're on the infield section, heading down towards Agostini Corner. Here they come. There's Nick Tiley in the yellow and black car, really struggling. Down the back, someone else who's struggling a little bit today, Keith Chapman in the red car, but right at the sharp end of things it's John Langridge, who took pole position again, so second pole for him. Remember at Silverstone 2 weeks ago, it was perfect for him. Pole position, 2 wins, 2 fastest laps, and today's pole time 4.9 seconds quicker than David Elsom, who qualified second. Absolutely phenomenal gap that Langridge has put in, and he's taking it very, very seriously this year. He's had some driver coaching around this circuit from British touring car aspirant Philip Glue, who does quite a bit of instruction. And who better? I mean, he's been around here loads of times, the traditional layout for sure. And Phil Glue's coaching obviously paying dividends for Langridge, who's well clear. But look at the rest of them. They've all got someone to battle with. There is action going on here at Snetterton today in the Classes A and B race. This race also for Class D, but we're waiting for the first car in Class D, the Mark 7 Fiesta, to hit the circuit, and that will happen before the end of the year. And we're very excited about seeing that join the track. Claire Kemp closing in now on James Appleby in 27. Appleby, who comes from Ripon in Yorkshire, one of the furthest travelling drivers, not to be confused with the other James Appleby that comes from the West Country and raced in the Sayet Cup, Sayet Cupra Cup a couple of seasons ago. On board with Claire once again. So into Murray's she goes, which is the old Russell corner, and now down onto the centre straight.
With so much racing going on in the world, you'd have to be a four-headed monster to keep up with it all. Luckily, we have that. Join Peter Keane, Bill Wood, Errol Tucker, and their guest driver analyst each week for an opinionated look at the news coming out of the racing world. Remember, it's GoRacingTV.com for all your racing and video needs.
Doesn't seem to be gaining too much. Very evenly matched, those cars. That is, of course, the aim of the championship. Through goes Michelle Edwards in 77, followed by Nick Barton there. Nick Barton through Riches down towards Montreal. There's Nick Tiley, James Appleby, Claire Kemp go through, the three of them, and it looks like it's going to be a move by James Appleby on Nick Tiley. So James trying to work his way through. Remember, the Class A car, the yellow car, has 400 cc's more, in theory. Doesn't necessarily have the horsepower today by the looks of things. But normally we would expect to see that car away. And down the road, Michelle Edwards makes a little bit of a mistake, kicks up the dirt. Is that going to allow Nick Barton through? Nick Barton is going to have a bit more momentum as they come down into Agostini. Barton on the inside. And Michelle Edwards, I think, read that one pretty well. He knew that he wasn't going to be able to maintain the previous speed that he had. He's taking a slightly tighter line out of Agostini down towards Hamilton corner. Again, another left-hander. And Barton has made up position, which I think is into, let me see, 6th position on circuit at the moment, Nick Barton. Kevin Stirling ahead of him in 5th place, but John Langridge still leading. He is clear and through the bomb hole already. As we look at the battle for 2nd position, and still there in 2nd place is Scott Baines. Now up into 3rd is Ken Bateman. So Scott Baines in Class B has got one car cushion between himself and the 2nd place man in Class B, Ken Bateman, in car number 55. Ken, who comes from Hockley in the Brighton System Consultants car. Then we look back, there is Nick Barton, who is still ahead of Michelle Edwards there, the darker blue car of Nick Barton, the lighter blue with the red trim of Michelle Edwards, the man from Kent, comes from Chelsfield near Orpington in Kent. Nick Barton comes from Biggin Hill. So those two relatively near neighbours, and we're on board with Nick Tiley, who is in front of the battle of Claire Kemp and James Appleby. James Appleby will be immediately behind. And Nick, as we said, struggling a little bit as he goes through Hamilton corner. Sorry, goes through, that was down at Murray's corner, now down the centre straight, keeping over to the inside. Now we're going to see a pass here, and I'm certainly listening to the car. The engine doesn't sound overly rough, but clearly not performing as well as Nick Tiley would like. Nick, who's along with his teammates David Elsom, running 2nd in the race at the moment. is, third in the race, isn't he, at the moment, down behind Scott Baines, supporting a number of charities, and they've got a Just Giving site. So if you fancy making a donation to any of their very, very good causes, you'd be very welcome to. So we're on the infield section, and running down towards Palmer Corner, which is they are now, the left-hander. Quite a sweeper, that one. There is Nick Tiley, the man we just saw the onboard with. James Appleby still holding off Claire Kemp at the moment for 8th position. Here we go, on board with Claire again. Nick Tiley, can we see Nick? I think they might be closing in on. I think they've definitely made progress on closing in on Nick Tiley. And Claire, slightly different line, wider line out of Agostini, down towards Hamilton Corner. And I think Claire at the moment just trying to fathom out where she might be a bit quicker to try and close in on the man in front. Claire running in, let me see, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th position in Class B. Back to our leaders. Through goes the 2nd position man, Scott Baines. David Elsom is there in 3rd. 4th position goes through is Ken Bateman. And then we've got a big, big gap back. And that's developing very well indeed between these two cars. Kevin Stirling still leading Nick Barton. In fact, Nick Barton has closed in, hasn't he, on Kevin Stirling, because Nick, a few laps ago, was back with Michelle Edwards. So Nick Barton's car seems to be coming on song. This is a wide line here as he heads into Coram. This might give him a little bit more momentum, maybe to challenge as they come up to Murray's. Let's see whether Nick Barton can pull off this manoeuvre on Kevin Stirling. Great battle going on between these two, and you just wonder whether... Oh, Stirling gets a little bit squirrely there as they go through Murray's, but he hangs on to position. Nick Barton at the moment can't do anything about him. Back to our Class B leader, Scott Baines. He's got the fastest lap in Class 2. John Langridge fastest in the SIs, Class A, with a 2 minutes 21.192 set back on lap 3. Scott Baines, that we were just looking at, a 2 minute 25.746 on lap 4. So that's the fastest lap of the race for those guys. And John Langridge, well clear of the field, still continuing on his way. Here's the man that's chasing him, in a different class, of course, Scott Baines. David Elsom still behind him. David Elsom, you can see the white car with the red cross on the roof, should be start to get into his stride, and the Class A cars should really come into their own on the Bentley Straight and Centre Straight. The Bentley Straight, the back straight here at Snetterton Circuit, and Centre Straight, the home straight, which is really where that extra horsepower should start to tell. But it's a measure of how well Scott Baines is doing in the 73 car that he's holding 2nd position overall. It really is a very strong performance. Through Oggies, little straight run down to Williams Corner, and then he will rejoin the main circuit, or what was the main circuit last year. And there he goes, David Elsom absolutely at the moment with no answer to him, and down behind them Ken Bateman running 2nd in Class B. Kevin Stirling on potentially for a podium in Class B as well. Down the straight they go into Brundle once again. The race leader well clear. David Elsom closing up though. You can see the horsepower pays for him as they go down the Bentley Straight. Now into Nelson Corner, and through Nelson. Next corner's the bomb hole, which you can clearly see. Claire Kemp still trying to close in on James Appleby. This is for 8th position at the moment. So Claire Kemp having a good run, started 11th. So has made a little bit of progress, which I think she'll feel very happy with. Now the question I'm going to ask is what's happened to Nick Tiley? Because I can't see Nick Tiley anywhere in shot at the moment. Is that Nick in the distance? He wasn't that far ahead. No, it's Nick Barton, isn't it, in the distance? So we've lost Nick Tiley somewhere along the line. I don't know if he's still on circuit, but Nick Tiley is now dropped behind the 2 Class B cars and down into 11th position, I think. A little bit of a mistake there from Appleby, kicks up the dirt. Now this is Claire Kemp's invitation to have a go. Claire doesn't seem to have too much more momentum, so you've got to take your hat off to James Appleby for keeping the momentum going there. A little bit of damage limitation for him. Here we come then, this battle for 6th position, 5th position between Kevin Stirling and Nick Barton. Barton makes a little bit of a swoop out of the slipstream. Wide line here. Chops back in. Looks if he can get up the inside as they go into Montreal. It isn't going to work. Back to the outside line again. And he'll hope to carry a wee bit more speed And there's Nick Tiley in 11th position, down behind Keith Chapman too. So Keith Chapman's red car goes through. He's into 10th position. I'm not sure if Michelle Edwards is in the mix as well. Let's see if we can have a look back when they come through. No, Michelle Edwards, I can't see him in the mix. Oh no, there's Michelle Edwards goes through. So Michelle Edwards still is there ahead of Claire Kemp, and James Appleby running in 7th position. James Appleby in 8th, Claire Kemp 9th, then it's Keith Chapman 10th, and Nick Tiley is in 11th position. But John Langridge is a long way ahead, but not far enough ahead to be able to get into lapping territory, I don't think, at the moment. Lap time's 2 minutes 20 or thereabouts, and Nick Tiley a little way away, and I don't think Nick Tiley is going to be lapped, even with his down on power car. But as you can see, we're on to the last lap here, and there have been some pretty good dices going on down the order. Not essentially close, but people have been harrying each other, and this has been a good one. Kevin Stirling still fending off Nick Barton. 5th position, 3rd in class for Kevin Stirling at the moment, but Nick Barton wants to get on the podium and draws level with him. There's a bit of contact between the two cars. They come into the bomb hole. Nick Barton on the outside. Brave stuff from him. They both held their line. Barton with a slightly wider line, and Kevin Stirling hangs on to it. Barton lost a bit of momentum as he went into Coram. Now down in towards the Murray's turn 12, and I think he's going to hang on to it, but John Langridge at the front, another superb effort from him. He's 30 seconds clear of the 2nd place car. This has been a superb weekend for him so far. Pole position, fastest lap thus far, and let's hope, I'm sure the car is going to hold together for him, and I'm sure he is going to keep his head around this last mile and a half or so around Snetterton to make it 3 wins on the trot. And Langridge stamping a dominance that we didn't really see in Class A so early on last year. Remember the Cockle brothers coming into Class A and B, both winning their respective championships as newcomers, and it looks to me like it's going to be a brave man who's going to bet against John Langridge doing the same. So we're going to see another newcomer champion in Class A. Class B still led by Scott Baines, but John Langridge, class of the field once again, and he's going to be looking over his shoulder and hoping that somebody will be able to perhaps take the battle a little bit closer to him. Down the Bentley straight for the last time in this one. Look at that, he's got the entire length of a straight clear. You very rarely see that in a championship where everybody technically is in the same machinery in class. So Langridge, superb performance from him. Very neat indeed, barely using the curbs there at Coram. Down towards Murray's for the last time, so out of turn 11, that sweeping right-hander down to the left-hander at Murray's. Into Murray's now on the brakes, pops the car in, and the next thing that he will see is the turn into the pit straight, the Senna straight, named after that motor racing great, and there is the checker. John Langridge makes it 3 wins out of 3 in the Fiestas. Langridge wins Class A. David Elsom got the better of Scott Baines to take 2nd, but Baines, the Class B winner from Kevin Bateman, and Kevin Stirling hangs on for a Class B podium ahead of Nick Barton. 7th was James Appleby, who held off Claire Kemp. Then it was Keith Chapman and Nick Tiley coming home in 10th. Michelle Edwards, sadly, a non-finisher.
John, fantastic first race here at Snetterton. 3 races into the season, 3 wins. That's a good start.
Definitely, couldn't really ask for any more. The guys have done a brilliant job preparing the car. It's been running really well. I've learnt the circuits, and so far anyway, and yeah, brilliant start.
Now, looking at your speed compared to the other guys out there, you're some 4 seconds a lap quicker. Certainly in qualifying you were. How are you able to be that fast?
I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. We did a track day here on Thursday before the weekend, just to try and learn the track. I think that's probably the biggest thing. There's a lot of corners here now, and maybe some of the guys hadn't been here before, but we certainly did our homework, and it's paying dividends.
Certainly with the new infield section to the track here at Snetterton, it's creating more overtaking opportunities, although you don't seem to need to worry about those.
Not yet. I will do though, I'm sure.
So going into the race this afternoon on pole position, I guess you're aiming to do a lights to flag again.
Well, that's always the aim, isn't it? I've got the timer in there, so I've got something to chase all the time, and of course they'll be breathing down my neck if I don't keep my pace up.
Fantastic. Well, we wish you all the best for this afternoon.
Thank you very much. Cheers, Lloyd.
Scott, another class win in the Ford Fiesta Championship in the first race here at Snetterton. Talk us through the race, because you had quite a dice going on.
Yeah, we had quite a good start, and then we had a couple of 1800s in the way on the first lap. I think Kemp was then sort of behind me. I was struggling to drop him actually. I didn't have anything else left. That was it, and I wasn't really dropping him. And unfortunately, one of the 1800s kind of got in the way a bit with Sport Ken's race, but helped me out. Pulled away from the 1800, and then sort of at the end he just got me on the last lap, which is inconvenient for grip position for the next race because I wanted a car in between us. But you know, it's still a class win, so that's all that matters really.
Some more points on the board, and
yeah, it's clean sheet so far, so if we can keep it like that, it'd be all the better.
Fantastic. Well, we're looking forward to another great race this afternoon.
Lovely, thank you.
Cheers, Scott.
Cheers, Bob.
State your desires.
Speed, adrenaline, competition.
Calculating. Result in 3, 2, 1. The National Auto Sports Association. Start here.
Hannah Clay, you're from the East Anglian Air Ambulance. Talk us through some of the work that you do and how Nick and David have supported you.
Well, the East Anglian Air Ambulance offer a life-saving emergency service to the people across Norfolk, Suffolk, Cambridgeshire and Bedfordshire 365 days a year. So we're getting medical attention to people who need it, and we're getting it to them quickly. Now, people like Nick and Dave supporting us is so vital because we're actually a charity, which means we don't get any government funding. So through racing, they're raising the profile of what it is we do while raising much needed funds to support the charity.
And you say that you don't get any government funding at all. Certainly that's probably something that a lot of people would be surprised to hear, given how vital the service is that you give.
Oh, of course. I mean, on average, throughout East Anglia, we go up around 4 or 5 times a day, and it's actually 10,000 missions that we've flown in the 10 years that we've been providing our service. So, like I say, it's all down to the support of the people of East Anglia, and we actually have to raise around £4.2 million a year to be able to do that. So we're just extremely grateful to anyone who supports us.
That's a phenomenal amount of money, and it's good to see that both Nick and David are supporting you so well.
Absolutely. It does, however, work out to be around £1.50 per person in the area we cover a year. So that makes it sound a little bit more achievable for everyone.
Absolutely. If anyone wants any more information on how to donate or on your services, how can they find that?
They can find us online at www.eaa.org.uk.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, and we wish you all the success with your future fundraising.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back to Snetterton. We're about to head off for race 2 of round 2 of the competition Car Insurance Ford Fiesta Championship. And on pole position by virtue of his win in race 1, it's John Langridge with David Elsom alongside. Scott Baines and Ken Bateman on row 2. Kevin Stirling and Nick Barton resume battle from row 3. Fourth row, James Appleby and Claire Kemp, Keith Chapman and Nick Tiley on row 5 and Michelle Edwards on row 6. So we'll see whether those who had their problems in race 1 will be able to sort them out, or have sorted them out in between the morning race and this afternoon race. We're on board with Nick Tiley. Great start from Nick Tiley, who looks down the inside. Now there's not really a great deal of room. James Appleby directly in front of us, Claire Kemp just to the left and through on the inside, but look at that, through goes Keith Chapman, and Nick Tiley very clearly doesn't seem to have got his power issue sorted out. Down into Rich's corner for the first time. Nick Tiley's going to be very frustrated about that. Michelle Edwards got away well. He's ahead of Claire Kemp. That's the blue car with the red trim. The red car is Keith Chapman, who seems to be going a little bit better in this one. So Keith Chapman seems to have made progress. Claire Kemp now and down into Montreal corner. Tight hairpin. And here comes Nick Tiley, second year racing driver from Cambridge. And he's got the whole field ahead of him, so a bit of work to do for Nick Tiley. Kevin Stirling and Nick Barton resume their battle from race number 1. It was a very handy little battle that those two had, and here come the leaders. The sun starting to dip down a little bit, and John Langridge coming under a bit of pressure here, but Langridge holds on to it. David Elsom in second position in car number 40, which is also his age, and Langridge being pegged back a little bit. It was a good start from John Langridge in race 1. Remember, a couple of not quite perfect starts at Silverstone, but he hasn't had any other experience as Ken Bateman gets it all over the dirt. Actually, rallycross circuit, there's an idea for Jonathan Palmer and Snetterton. Maybe some premium rallycross events could come in, and possibly Ken Bateman might well sign up for those after that moment. There is Kevin Stirling in 53 down the Bentley straight for the first time. But John Langridge looks to me like David Elsom is... Oh, he's lost a bit of ground. I was going to say the camera angle there at the end of the straight flattering to deceive a little bit, but Elsom losing a little bit of ground on this first lap, and John Langridge really just wants the same story that he's had in all 3 races that have gone before us so far, and that is leading at the end of the first lap, leading at the end of the race, and also taking fastest laps as well. So John Langridge away, through goes the Class B leader Scott Baines, field going through, Keith Chapman in red, Claire Kemp side by side with Michelle Edwards, and he's through, so Claire Kemp passes Michelle Edwards in 77, Michelle a non-finisher in race 1, Nick Tiley at the back, somebody else kicking off the dirt, and see if there are any stricken cars, can't see any, because through and leading quite handsomely once again is John Langridge from David Elsom. Self-entered car David Elsom prepared by Daniels Motorsport. Scott Baines still there in third and leading Class B. Then it's Ken Bateman. Nick Barton though is third in class. Then James Appleby. James Appleby making real progress here. You get the impression that James has learnt the circuit really well, and he's looking up the inside line as they go into the hairpin. Montreal hairpin, which you can see from the main A11 as you drive past, and Kevin Stirling in the mix as well. There's Stirling looking up the inside of James Appleby. Look at the run that Stirling got. He had a lot more momentum coming out of the corner, but he's on the outside line and just loses out. So James Appleby, who remember was dicing with Claire Kemp in race 1, is a lot further here. So good start from Appleby. Some waving spectators there on the infield. So as we said in race 1, the circuit owners have done a superb job with this new infield section and built up quite a lot of raised spectator areas where you can get a great view as either a photographer or indeed as a spectator, and it's right near the paddock, so the teams can watch the drivers not just from the pit wall now. If you didn't have a pit pass before, you really had a bit of a struggle as to where to go to watch and remain near to the paddock, but you can do that now. It's really been well thought out here at Snetterton, and highly recommend that you come down for a day out. And there is James Appleby, who's enjoying his day out in the 27 car. Yorkshire Bank machine down the Bentley straight. Race leaders through, and already through Brundle. Through goes Scott Baines in second, Ken Bateman in third place. Nick Barton is still there on for a potential podium in Class B after Kevin Stirling took the podium in the first one. Stirling down behind Barton, but not quite close enough, so it looks like Nick Barton's car seems to get better as the weekend goes on, doesn't it? Or is it Nick that's getting better as the weekend goes on? Either way, it's a good performance from him, potentially on for a podium there. There is Kevin Stirling in 53. Another local driver, Kevin Stirling, comes from Norwich, entered by the Loddon Body Shop and Havers Tyres. Just a reminder on the classes: Class A, the 1800cc cars; Class B, 1400s. We've got a Class A car, as you would expect, out front, leading from David Elsom there, just going through shot. So 2 Class A cars. Then it's the Class B battle. Well, not really a battle at the moment. Scott Baines leading it from Ken Bateman, and now we've got to Kevin Stirling back into third place. Kevin Stirling takes third position in class away from Nick Barton. Then it's James Appleby down behind them. Those 3. Keith Chapman running a lot stronger in this one too, in the red Class B car. Into the hairpin. Now this is exactly what we wanted to see. Oh, it's through. Kevin Stirling goes off into the dirt. Little bit of contact with Nick Barton. I think there might be words between those two in the paddock afterwards, but Kevin Stirling rejoins, and he's lost a hatload of places. one of the things I was hoping for from this circuit was overtaking opportunities, and of course the move that we just saw, which was a shame that it ended in contact and a spin, but the move we just saw was exactly, overtaking is exactly what the circuit owners were trying to encourage on the infield section. So James Appleby has now gone past Nick Barton, so James Appleby in his second meeting with us is potentially on for a Class B podium, and he's got quite a lead over the 88 car of Nick Barton. So the Biggin Hill driver chasing the man from Yorkshire, James Appleby in 27, through Oggie's corner, heading down towards Williams, and then it'll be onto the Bentley straight again. But Nick Barton, after that wee bit of contact, in theory, based on pace from race 1, experience with the car as well, which will count for quite a lot, I think, down the Bentley straight, should be able to close in on Appleby. But this really does augur well for the rest of Appleby's season, because we can expect him to be up challenging for more podiums, and also, dare we say it, race wins before the end of the year. Not if Scott Baines has anything to say about it though. Scott's still leading the class. Lap times, I think, generally a shade quicker than we had earlier on, but here comes Nick Barton challenging for that third position in class again. Can't go through. 5th overall on the road, this position, but very definitely worth us thinking about class points, because we need to think about championship positions in each respective class. So James Appleby hanging on to that podium at the moment and waiting to pick up any pieces that might fall off is the red machine of Keith Chapman, car number 17, the man from Munden. Another driver entered car, Keith Chapman. A bit of a gap back behind Keith. We get the white and blue machine of Kevin Stirling, I think, has rejoined. So Kevin back on circuit. There goes Keith Chapman down through Richie's corner, which has stayed the same. Oh, the white and blue car, of course, with Claire Kemp, isn't it? Claire Kemp behind Keith Chapman. Nick Tiley still at the back of the field, with Kevin Stirling still plodding on as well, but John Langridge doing anything but plodding and continuing to pull away, popping in those best laps, building up a gap over the second place man, David Elsom, who just cannot do anything at all about John Langridge. And is he going to make it 4 out of 4? It's not the sort of thing we're used to seeing in the competition car insurance Ford Fiesta Championship. Normally wins tend to be shared out a little bit more, but Langridge has really raised the bar this year as a newcomer to the championship. Chasing pack then come down the Bentley straight. Through goes the fourth place man Ken Bateman, still followed by James Appleby. Now Appleby here is closing in on the second place Class B driver, but he's got his mirrors full of the 4th place Class B driver, Nick Barton. So Barton trying to close in. It'd be great for Appleby if he can bag a podium. This is the sort of competitiveness that we're used to seeing on the championship. New drivers coming in, and in second race meeting, a potential podium. Nick Barton can't seem to do anything about James Appleby at the moment. Then it's Keith Chapman. Claire Kemp still down behind Keith and trying to reel him in, but there's Scott Baines leading in Class B.
The club, an amateur racer. Here at GoRacingTV, we salute you. And we want to give you all the tools and info to compete with the best. Find out how to do it all from your own garage by watching our Club Racer and Autocrosser shows. GoRacingTV.com, supplying all your video racing needs.
This is the scrap for third position in Class B, the 1400cc class. Still James Appleby hanging on from Nick Barton. Nick can't seem to close down at the moment. Ken Bateman in a little bit of a lonely second position in Class B ahead of them. The white car with the red trim. Through Coram they go, and around about half distance covered in this race. I think we're probably going to head for... There was 9 laps completed last time. The race format for the weekend testing and qualifying on day one of the meeting, normally a Saturday, and 2 races on day 2, and the race is over a duration normally of 20 minutes, and that afforded us 9 laps for race 1, and I think we're probably heading for the same again. Now at the back of this trio we've got Kevin Stirling trying to close down on Claire Kemp. It doesn't look like Kevin's car has been too badly damaged by his excursion off circuit and his contact with Nick Barton earlier on, but he's trying to deal with Claire Kemp, and I can tell you that Kevin Stirling is on very good pace indeed. He's popped in a 2-minute 26.0, not quite as fast as Scott Baines in race 1, but it's the fastest lap of the circuit. Maybe a little bit of red mist helping him. I'm sure he was quite cross after that excursion off the circuit, and now what's he going to do? He's not looking for a manoeuvre at the moment. They're coming down into Brundle corner, out of Brundle, down towards the bomb hole they go. Nelson the corner in between, and Keith Chapman still hanging on to position in car number 17. Chapman 5th in class at the moment, then Claire Kemp in 6th, Kevin Stirling in 7th position. Down behind them we've still got Nick Tiley, who's working his way around the circuit and fighting that car, very much underpowered. Michelle Edwards in the mix as well, down at the rear of the field, but here comes Stirling. He's going to have a look. Claire Kemp is going on the outside line as they come down the centre straight. There is Nick Barton running 4th in class, and here is the scrap for 5th position. So it's Keith Chapman hanging on to 5th at the moment. 6th in class is Claire Kemp, the white and blue car, but around the outside comes Kevin Stirling. This is brave stuff to hang around the outside of Rich's corner, and he's a little bit too far back to be able to do that. Sometimes you can go for the lunge up the inside, and Stirling very mindful of not wanting to do a lunge, and maintains position, maintains chase down into Montreal corner. There goes Nick Tiley. Nick, of course, still a podium finisher in the first race of the day with just the 3 starters today in Class A, and you've got to be there to finish to get the podium points, and that may well stand Nick in good stead towards the end of the season. As through goes Stirling down the inside, side by side with Claire Kemp. This is the Agostini corner, close stuff indeed, and Stirling's dropped back. What's happened to him? I think the car maybe has given up the ghost, but Claire Kemp was very wide into Agostini as they head down towards Hamilton corner and then down towards Oggies, and we seem to have lost Kevin Stirling. He's going to be disappointed with that. So Keith Chapman will now, I think, probably come under a little bit more pressure from Claire Kemp here, because Keith Chapman, there's nobody else for Claire to worry about, so she can get her head down and chase Chapman in car number 17. Down the Bentley straight they go. Brundle corner will be the next one after they've gone under the bridge. Back to a little bit further up the field, and our battle for 3rd position in class is still going on, and in fact it's becoming a battle for 2nd now, isn't it? Because this is Class B, the 1400cc cars, and it's Ken Bateman in front at the moment. He's 2nd in class from James Appleby in the white 27, and then the blue 88 of Nick Barton running 4th in class. Here is Scott Baines, the Class B leader. I remind you that John Langridge and David Elsom in Class A and leading the race overall are well down the road. There goes Scott Baines leading Class B. 2nd position 55 Ken Bateman. 3rd position is 27 James Appleby. Now Appleby's actually put a slightly quicker lap time in than Ken Bateman, and that's obviously evident from the fact that he's catching up. But Appleby being buoyed by a little bit more experience. As we look at Claire Kemp still trying to put pressure under Keith Chapman in 17. Chapman gamely holding on, and Claire Kemp getting more confident with that very wide sweep there down through Rich's corner. Now the 2nd in Class B seems to have thinned out a little bit. Seems to be some space between 2nd, 3rd and 4th, so this scrap has calmed down just a little bit. Down towards Agostini, you can see there from the straight on camera angle that, yeah, things are a little bit more settled, and this is probably good news for James Appleby. I think he might have wanted, well, he definitely would have wanted a 2nd position. You can see Kevin Stirling's car parked up on the outside there, so Kevin very much out of the race, so bad news for him. But James Appleby possibly on for a podium here, and this is going to be mighty good news for Appleby. 55 though Ken Bateman, second in class. It's not been a bad race for him. Appleby trying to close him in again, but we're in the closing stages of this one. The clock ticking away, and time will be running out. John Langridge, I can tell you, is still very much clear, although the gap not as big in this one. On the previous race he got the gap out to 30 seconds, and in this one David Elsom's keeping him 15, 16, 17 seconds is the gap between first to second overall. And Scott Baines not as far ahead either. Scott Baines probably about 3 seconds ahead at the moment of Kevin Bateman, who in turn is a couple of seconds clear of James Appleby in third place. But this is the man that's done the business again, 4 times out of 4 for John Langridge. Ex-karting man has come to car racing and taken to it like a duck to water. Although thankfully we haven't had the duck watery conditions thus far this year. I'm sure we'll get a wet race at some point during the course of our wonderful British summer. But Langridge very clear, but Elsom a little bit closer on this occasion. Fastest lap of the race has again gone to John Langridge. That was on lap 7, a 2 minutes 20.82. So Langridge has found a little bit more pace in this race, but so too is the second place man David Elsom, who at the moment is about 18 seconds down. That's still a big gap in Fiestas, but Elsom will be pleased he's closed up from race 1. Through Oggies for the last time, the right-hander, then a short straight down towards Williams Corner, where they rejoin the Bentley Straight. Here comes Langridge, just lifts a wheel. It's poetry in motion really to look at this drive from John Langridge. It's been absolutely inch perfect all race long. Down the Bentley Straight for the last time. He'll probably afford himself a look in the mirror, and I suspect it's going to be most of the Bentley Straight, the gap between first and second once again. Down into the left-hander at Brundle Corner. On the brakes, turns in. Very neatly done. That nice smooth corner now, which is going to, I think, negate quite a lot of the problems we had at the old S's. Through the bomb hole for the last time. Then it's that long sweeping right hand corner at Corham, another place that you can overtake here, but it's really one for the brave. And John Langridge getting away with Class A. Scott Baines still leading Class B from Kevin Bateman. I can tell you James Appleby still in his podium position too, as through Murray's for the last time goes John Langridge, who's going to make it 4 wins in succession. A remarkable race weekend again for John Langridge, who can take the battle to him at Donington Park in 3 weeks. That remains to be seen. There is the checker. 4 out of 4, 2 poles, 4 fastest laps. A perfect start to the season for Langridge. The podium man wins again. And look at the gap back to second place. David Elsom will take second. Here's confirmation of that. Langridge from Elsom. Scott Baines wins Class B from Kevin Bateman. And the last B podium place, this time going to James Appleby. Nick Barton takes 6th overall and 4th in Class B. Next it was Claire Kemp who got the better of Keith Chapman. Nick Tiley comes home 9th and Michelle Edwards in 10th. Of course the non-finisher was Kevin Stirling.
David Elsom, yet again another podium position and driver of the day for the class. You must be really pleased.
I'm chuffed for that. I think for me the second race really was about keeping Scott Baines at bay. I was always going to be a job to jump onto the back of John really, and just really about setting personal bests, and I think I did that quite a bit throughout the race. So driver of the day is good reward for me. I'm chuffed for that.
But a storming drive on the opening lap, and a couple of times you looked like you were trying to get past John as well.
There was a couple of times. I don't think I was going to be there for very long, but it was a good start, and it's what I needed. I needed to really be away from Scott right from the very beginning, and as I say, I was never going to hold it back from John. But I had a really good day, and I've sort of just feel every time I'm coming out that bit better with the car, and I'm sort of getting some of the corners right. And Kane Aston came to help me today, just talking me through some of the corners, and it made a difference in the second race. So yeah, I'm looking forward to coming back to Snetterton.
Donington Park next. Looking forward to it?
I've never raced there. I'm not even sure that I'll be going there yet. I think Nick's talking me into it, so we'll see. Neither of us have raced there, so that'll be a good challenge if we do.
Fantastic. Well, once again, congratulations, and thank you for speaking to us.
Thank you.
Nick, yet again another third place. Talk us through the race, because there was quite a lot going on at the back of the field there.
It was a very entertaining race, Lloyd. Yeah, I didn't get a great start. I was in a bundle of bees and I couldn't find a way through, and I ended up at the back of the pack into corner 1. I had a sniff, a couple of chances to get through, and then really I hope my video survived in the car, because there were people going all over the place, door under door handle. I missed 2 or 3 people who were going on and off the track and losing it generally. So I was just really trying not to hit them as much as anything. I was reconciled not catching John and David, so I just thought I'd try and bring the car in one piece and try and get a little bit better going around the circuit. I fancy it's a struggle so far today.
How do you feel now you've been here and you've raced around? Do you feel a little bit more comfortable with the car and with the track?
I think the jury's still out. Some combination of me and the car still isn't working. I haven't got any testing time to now in Donington, but I think I'm just going to go to Donington and have another go and see if I can do it better there.
That sounds absolutely fantastic. We look forward to seeing you there, and congratulations once again.
Thank you very much.
Well, once again we've seen some fantastic action from classes A and B of the Competition Car Insurance Ford Fiesta Championship. We hope you enjoyed it and look forward to seeing you next time.